Hello and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with a Kick. Let me just go ahead and center my microphone a little bit there. Awesome. Fantastic. We are here to talk about the wrap-up of knockout stages with very little changing between Matchday 1 and Matchday 2. And then also preview our Matchday 26 matches. I think that's where we are now, right? Yes, Matchday 26. With some real interesting matches on the horizon coming down there at the end. Boy, that cake topper, that's not what I'm looking for. That end cap is very interesting looking, especially after the results in the midweek. But we'll go ahead and dive right into it with a quick recap for match day 2 of the reverse fixture of the Champions League knockout stages. Going into this one, we said that the teams that performed not as well in the first one were going to have their work cut out for them, and it turned out to be exactly the case. With no draws in the first half, everyone was able to play sort of not as aggressive as you would have thought. But some teams still ended up scoring an immense amount of goals. So quickly here, we've got AC Milan and Feyenoord did draw 1-1 with AC Milan getting the first of the red cards, another red-yellow accumulation, and then Feyenoord getting one later on in the match. But Feyenoord was able to pull through in total with a 2-1 aggregate. I'll get this out of the way, like a Band-Aid. Oh, hold on. Before we get too far into it, I was just so ready and raring to go. How are you doing, Keegan? How's it going over there?
It's going good, man. I was fine with you just jumping right into it. I mean, this one though, this day was much better than the next day that we'll talk about. Wednesday, not as good. Tuesday, Feyenoord getting the 71st minute winner, pretty big deal. I think the Milan red card for sure played into Feyenoord being able to win. But all these matches were good. I'll just bounce around. Bayern getting it 90+4 in exciting fashion over Celtic, who played like I thought they would in the first game in this one. I thought they were much better. But then, hey, who would have thought Club Brugge would be... Atalanta came into the knockout stages with 6 goals against total. They gave up 5 in 2 matches to a team that only scored 7 in the group stage. So, this was a good day. It was a good day of football. Benfica Monaco is also exciting. What can you really say?
You could say for the Atalanta one, that red card came very late on, so it was already pretty well decided at that point. The Benfica Monaco match was insane. A 3-3 draw. That one was going my way so many different times with having the Monaco victory, but Benfica was able to come back each and every to answer and come through with the full-on victory. Man, it was sad to see Monaco go, but I'll get over it. We don't have the breakdown yet because that will be coming out on Friday. That will be the draw will occur then. I think the first matches are next week, I believe. There may be a week gap.
2 weeks. You got a week.
2 week gap. Okay, we get a fortnight of break.
Yeah,
fortnight of break for FA Cup things and other sundry excursions. But we'll move from Tuesday over to Wednesday, which were either lopsided or rather dull. Is kind of how this one broke down. We'll start with the rather dull one first. Dortmund and Sporting with a 0-0 draw. You had this one best described that Dortmund played well enough to win it. They just decided not to score. They were even given a penalty and decided not to score. But that's all they needed. They came in with a 3-goal advantage, so they were able to sock that one back in and sort of coast off onto the next round. PSG and Brest. Wow, really making me look bad there, Brest. 7-0 victory for PSG. 7 different goal scorers. I would like to know the last time that a Champions League side had 7 different goal scorers in the same game, because I bet it wasn't very recently. Or at least infrequently, I'm sure.
Yeah, really impressive. PSG laid the
wood.
the proverbial wood down, as they call it. And it really was in the second half. Like, it was 2-0
Yeah.
at halftime. And I was thinking, Brest, I mean, you're down 5-0 on aggregate. It's not looking great, but you can at least come out with some fight. I think in their halftime talk, they just said, hey, guys, let's make some history and let's see how many goals we can let them have. It was not pretty. This is a team that is literally a rival in their domestic league. So embarrassing in a lot of fronts. But hey, PSG kind of coming out swinging and showing people like, hey, don't forget about us.
Yeah.
Just because the other big dogs are doing well doesn't mean that we can't sneak in there.
Well, one of the big dogs we can forget about now is Manchester City. I'll let you go ahead. I mean, you salvaged a goal there in the 90+2 with Nico Gonzalez, but up until then, I mean, it was Real Madrid all the way.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the lineup I would have put out there, obviously. De Bruyne, Haaland, Grealish, Doku, all kind of in the injury-ish. Haaland had like a little bit of a scare at the end of the Premier League game. So I understand why you don't start them, but like Ruben Diaz hasn't played in months. And you just throw him out there immediately. Bernardo hasn't played in a while.
As captain, no less.
Yeah. It was just like we didn't look like a cohesive team, and giving up that early goal in the 4th minute set the tone. After we gave up that goal, it looked like, all right, let's just see if we can't find one. But Mbappe is going to be Mbappe. Real Madrid in the Champions League, always a hard out, no matter how good they're doing domestically. So kudos to Real Madrid. They were the better team. City just could never find their footing in this one.
Yeah, it was certainly a disappointing watch. And now we still have, I think, is it just... No, we've got Aston Villa from... Well, I mean, we also have Liverpool, but I'm not going to root for Liverpool. But Aston Villa made it through, and
Arsenal also
made it through. I don't want to live one. Arsenal I'm mid on, but Aston Villa, here we go. They're going to be the champions. Then to the last one, PSV and Juve. This was the only one to flip result from the first match day. Shockingly so, in my opinion.
Yeah, PSV, I mean, they played exactly like I thought Feyenoord would. In the preview, I was like, Feyenoord, they're going to come out, they're going to play hard-nosed. They did. Feyenoord moves on as well. But these Dutch boys, it was exciting. Like, they were the better team. They deserved to win. All through the match, they were the better team.
And that assist to Perisic, I mean, that first touch was immaculate on Perisic's opening goal there in the 53rd minute. I did like to see Timmy Boy getting on the score sheet, 63rd minute. Tim Weah scoring for Juve. Wasn't enough, but he still got that in.
Yeah, I mean, Juve just got kind of like City. They just did not get off on the right foot. Them equalizing with Tim Weah was big. But even after that, PSV just kind of took the reins back and dominated until they scored 11 minutes later. So it's one of those where you never know how it's going to go, no matter how well a team is playing, because Juve had their chances. But my goodness, like PSV, again, them and Feyenoord both, if they get the right matchup, they could do something with it. Like, they're two good teams.
Yeah, and, PSV, they continued their great run of form. Like, they were doing better than I would have anticipated. They did better in this format for some reason than I would have expected them to do in a group stage, just like a standard format from previous years. I never expected PSV to do the match, but they are playing certainly above their repertoire, their reputation would.
They're punching above their weight class.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. But let's see. Let me take a quick look here. Now, this is interesting. Wow, Club Brugge moving through is crazy because they almost dropped out of. They finished 24th.
They were the last team in.
Last team in because of their loss to Man City. So of the unseeded 17 through 24, Feyenoord. Am I right? Yeah, Feyenoord moved through, right? Yeah. Feyenoord and Club Brugge moved through. All the other lower seeds did not. So that's pretty interesting, just for the first year of things.
Yeah, Brugge is really like they're the 16 seed.
Yeah.
They're the 15 seed, moving, beating some big boys. Because Atalanta, again, 20 goals for, 6 goals against in the first 8 games. Like, you're thinking they're on a roll. They barely missed out on the bye. And it turns out missing out on the bye is them going home. Like, it kind of shows the importance of that top 8 now because you're seeing it. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's kind of exciting to see some underdogs get through.
It is interesting. We'll see how the actual draw works to see if they get any good matchups to see if they can progress any further. But that is, like I said, going to happen on Friday, and then we will we might mention it briefly on the recap episode next week, but only just. We'll have a more full breakdown when we get closer to the actual match days. But, speaking of just a moment ago, Aston Villa and Liverpool, they had a match of their own here on Tuesday, which ended up being a perfect pick for you.
Oh, yeah. I like it. This one, I mean, it was, I mentioned to you off air, this was the classic last year Aston Villa, just playing hard-nosed defense, not being afraid of the competition, and playing their style of football at home. They really ought to have won this one the way that they played. It's Liverpool, so they're always going to get something out of it this year. But they played really well. First half, they ended this first half very well with 2 goals. Kind of let Alexander-Arnold slip in there and get one in the 61st. But at no point did I think Liverpool was going to, impression themselves on the game and take over. Aston Villa did really well possessing, starving them off. They did really well marking Salah in the second half. First half, he got a goal. But, yeah, I mean, overall, this was the type of result that teams like Arsenal and Nottingham and City want to see because it gives you a little bit of hope. But Aston Villa, if they play like that every single week, they're going to hit a win streak here. Yeah. But in their last 5 matches, they've pulled 4 points out of a possible 15. So I think they needed this for their morale, and it was a morale booster. But it was a good one. And I think, we both kind of alluded to it in the previous episodes that Liverpool's schedule is starting to stack up. They had to play this one.
Yeah. And now they're in an inverse situation from they were just a few weeks ago. Now everyone else has a game in hand on them aside from Aston Villa. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see going forward because that's they're only 8 points up on Arsenal, but now Arsenal has a game in hand. So if you mark that as a win, that 8 points becomes 5, and 5 is nothing. That's 2 bad weeks in a row, and you're right there, So they better mind to keep that gap wide. Otherwise, things could go south for Liverpool in relatively short order. And with they've got a huge match coming up this weekend, which we'll get to at the end of the predictions, but we'll get to the predictions starting right now. With the first match up being one that, it's fine. It's a Friday match. Leicester City hosts Brentford at King Power Stadium. Brentford. Leicester is down in the relegation zone. We know that. They are not doing great right now. But Brentford are rather hit or miss at the moment. They've gone loss win in the past couple against various degrees of talent against them. So, what do you think happens in this one for the Foxes and the Bees?
Yeah, I don't trust Leicester really at all. So I think the Bees win 2-1. I think they've just got, I don't want to say they have more to play for, but obviously Leicester does. But just like the feel of it, Brentford's just higher up on the table. They have a chance to get top 10. And their players are just in better form than the Leicester team. Leicester continues to just make mistake after mistake. I think it continues 2-1 Brentford with the victory.
Yep, I'm pretty similar. I've got it 2-0 for Brentford. They are just the better team. And while their performance has been up and down in the past month or so, they were also playing like Liverpool, so that's not a bad loss. Tottenham was on the upswing. It has been on the upswing of late, so that 2-0 loss isn't that bad. And they beat Crystalpalace, who was doing much better of late when they took them out. So I think that they are certainly performing at a level that puts them above Leicester City, which isn't a tough task, but still, you gotta getting an away victory is great when you can do it in the Premier League. Then we will move on to a set of teams that are moving in opposite directions. Everton, we've talked about having a little good run of form here, unbeaten in their last 5, with a draw with the Merseyside derby draw just happening a week and a couple days ago. At this point, they take on Manchester United, who, they are moving the wrong direction. Yeah, they've just flip-flop positions here in this past match day, and Manchester United can't take their foot off the gas. They ain't that far outside of relegation chatter at this point. And I think that trend continues. I think Everton, they're at home, which helps. I think that Manchester United is disarray. I think disarray will be fine. They don't have much of an identity in the recent weeks to sort of fall back on. And I think that Everton takes this one 2-1. I think that they take full 3 points out of it.
I disagree with you there. I think Man United does have an identity, and it's called being losers. And I think they end up losing 2-0. I'm kind of right there with you on the pick, but we've already talked about it. But your manager can't come out and be like, "We're just bad," like with no sort of like, "Here's the issues. We know what's wrong."
We're looking for constructive criticism, not just criticism, right? You have to give us some sort of silver lining here.
Yeah, we know that you're bad, but just like it's not your job to then come out and state the obvious. But Everton. Rocking. We already talked about 13 points out of 15 since David Moyes took charge. I think they make it 16 out of 18.
Yeah.
Give them the win.
Keep them rolling. Keep them rolling. And then we'll move over to another team, Arsenal and West Ham United. I believe that this is another local derby for London, right? Yeah, they're both in London.
It is, yeah.
I can't remember if this one's named. There's so many. I don't think this one's named. I don't think so. I'm sure the comments will correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, comments correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if this is like the South London Derby. I don't think it's the South London Derby. Who cares? People care. Sorry. Let me rephrase that.
Who cares?
I am unaware and have not put the time in to look it up here while we're recording. Should have probably done it, but whatever. West Ham goes to Arsenal, goes to their place, goes to Anfield. Not Anfield. Yes, Anfield. No, wait, where? Who? Help me. Help me! How does this one go?
I was looking it up. I don't see any. Yeah, the Emirates. I was trying to look up the
Anfield is Liverpool.
The derby name, but I don't see one.
It's just a local London derby. It's a local derby.
Yeah, local derby.
We have learned that in the past. If it isn't named, it's just called a local derby.
Yeah, I think this local derby ends 2-1 in Arsenal's favor. I think they're in good form. West Ham is not in good form. And Arsenal's going to be pretty invigorated seeing Liverpool drop points.
Yep.
So I think they close the gap to 5.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about West Ham being terrible recently. But, they only have 4 points out of their last 7 matches. 4 points out of the last 7.
We've mentioned it. It's like sometimes manager hires mid-season go well. Sometimes they don't. West Ham is a great example of it not going well. Because I think he's been in charge. Graham Potter's been in charge of 6 matches. Yeah, 4 points in the last 6. That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. And right now we're bouncing. We have the same picks. We're just alternating which matches they reply to. I'm also at a 2-0 on this one. So we've gone 2-0, 2-1, 2-1, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1. The next one I don't have a 2 in it. So I know that we'll break the streak here. But we will go ahead and move over to Bournemouth hosting my Wolves. I don't have a lot of hope for this one. Bournemouth is doing quite well of late. I mean, they lost to Liverpool, but a lot of people are losing to Liverpool. Outside of that, they have been performing quite well, including that crazy 5-0 victory over Nottinghamforest not too long ago. So I think my Wolves go in and lose 3-0. I think it's a pretty straightforward match for Bournemouth.
Yeah, I don't trust Bournemouth at all. I think this will be one of those matches where they show their true colors and they slip a little bit. I think they get a point, but I think it goes 1-1. I think 1-1 Wolves impressed me their last time out, even though they lost, and they've been playing really well the past 3 matches. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 1-1.
I bless you for that. I do not agree.
Well, hey, if history serves itself, the more we disagree about Wolves, the higher likelihood for them to get points happens.
So hey, I'll take it. I'm negging my Wolves right now to use a 2010s terminology. Then we'll move over to one that this is a pretty interesting one, I think. Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Both these teams are kind of sneaky good. Crystal Palace recently so. Like they did terrible in the first part of the season, but since then they've really been on a come up. And Fulham has just been like smooth and steady sort of the whole season. They've had some ups and downs, but like nothing too crazy. So I think this one it will be a fun match. I think it won't be that high scoring personally, just because like both these teams are they're not as high scoring, especially in recent weeks. I think that Crystal actually goes in and gets a 3 though. I have it as a 1-0 victory for Crystal Palace over Fulham.
Yeah, I have it 2-1. I don't think it'll be anything crazy. I just think Fulham's a better team. That's why they're at 8th and not 13th. And in a little better form. I guess both teams are in like pretty similar form, but I'm going 2-1.
It's perfectly reasonable. I think this one could go either way. But this next one, you know what? I don't know. This next one, if we were talking about this 2 weeks ago, I think it could go either way. This time, I'm not so sure. I don't think Ipswich Town has it in them. But do you think it's Tractor Boys versus Tottenham Hotspur at the Tractor Boys place, which is not St. Mary's. That was Southampton. Why do I try to do this? They play at Portman Road, obviously, Ipswich. How do you have this one going for you?
I think Ipswich takes it 2-1.
Really?
I think it'll be a shocker result because Tottenham's been on a hot streak.
Yeah.
And I don't trust them to continue it. And this feels like a game they might slip. So I'm going 2-1.
I do have Tottenham taking a step back here, but going off of my own advice to myself last week, I can ride the horse, but just not whole hog, right? So I've got a 1-1 draw between Ipswich Town and Tottenham. So you're riding that horse again. You got that Tractor Boys going all the way, 3 points. It's
been a while since they've won a game. I think they're due one.
Well, so it's been a while since Southampton's won relatively recently over Ipswich Town, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But Ipswich Town is certainly better than them, and they have not won since Matchday 19 back in the end of December. So we'll see if they're due. It'd be interesting. Tottenham, I think, is probably safe at this point, but there's still a good bit of season left. We go over there to the aforementioned Southampton. They take on Brighton Hove Albion, and this one I think Brighton coming off a very good home result against Chelsea. Southampton is Southampton, so I think that in St. Mary's it's all birds this time. I think it's 4-0 for Brighton Hove Albion.
Yeah, we were almost close, but I have Southampton getting a goal and it being 4-1. That's all I have to say about that one.
1-4. Yeah, I put it 4-1. That would be Southampton winning, and that's not what's going to happen.
No.
Then we go to Aston Villa and Chelsea. Chelsea, like conversely, coming off of a bad loss against Brighton Hove Albion, and Aston Villa coming off of their nice 2-2 draw in the midweek. They will know at this point who they'll be facing in the round of 16 for Champions League. So that'd be it's a little wrinkle to throw in there for upcoming fixtures. Not really for this one, but this one I think I didn't have a good feel for it. So I went double bagel, which is a strange pick when you don't have a good feel for it. Probably 2-2 is a better pick, but I'm going to stick with my double bagel here, 0-0.
Yeah, similar feeling. I have it 1-1. I think that these two teams are have enough attackers to get a goal. 2-2 I also considered, but I'm going to go 1-1. I just think Aston Villa, both teams need it, and I don't think either team's going to walk away feeling good about it.
All right. And then how do you feel about this Newcastle and Nottingham Forest match coming up at St. James's Park?
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Both teams coming off losses. I think this one will be the most exciting one of the weekend.
Wow.
Really, Sunday in general will be exciting. But I think this one will end 3-2, Nottingham winning. I think that Nuno, again, he's one of those where, like, after a loss, he can inspire a team to get a win in a big way. So I think that I'm just going to ride with that history and say 3-2, and Newcastle loses their third straight.
Wow, that'd be disappointing for Newcastle, but I'm right there with you. I've got his 3-1. I think Nottingham needs it more. I feel like they would need it more, just because they're hanging on to their top 4 spot right now, and they've stumbled in the past couple weeks. They've been alternating win-loss with a draw in there as well. After their spate of 6 wins in a row. So. Yeah. If you're getting Newcastle, you're at St. James's Park, which would be a great result then if you can pull off the victory. But Newcastle has shown themselves to be vulnerable recently, and I think that Nottingham will be able to take care of that, take full advantage of that. And then I will let you lead off here for the biggest match of the weekend, which is Manchester City hosting Liverpool.
Yeah, this one, boy, after the midweek, I am less confident. Although the nice sentiment was that Man City have only lost once in their last 15 home games when Liverpool has come to visit. So, that makes me feel pretty good. Liverpool won 2-0 in the reverse fixture, but, it was a pretty decent game. Since Christmas, only Liverpool and Arsenal have won more points in the Premier League than Man City. So, despite the onus on City, they've won 5, drawn 2, lost 1 in their last 8.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough. I'm gonna go with my fandom. Say City wins 3-1. I also did the same thing when they played Real Madrid, and we saw that. But if Haaland plays, we're just a different team at home, especially in the Premier League. We play so much better. So I think we come out and we really try and hit Liverpool in the throat. I do think Salah gets a goal, so he's the one goal that Liverpool gets. But these games are always exciting. But I do think City will take an early lead and control the match a little bit more than people might think, which will put the pressure on Liverpool and make Arsenal pretty pumped.
Yeah, City just need to not give up one of those early goals that they've been so prone to do, really in the past couple of years. But this season in particular, they've given up early goals that have just shattered the tenor of the match. I'm right there with you, though. I think City does take this. They've been very up and down, but depending on whether it's been midweek or weekend. And we talked about in the last one that we've dogged on City a lot this season, but they're still in 4th. They've turned it around. They've played very well, and they've gotten very good results. I don't know that they've played fantastically in this calendar year, but they've gotten the results that they have, like you said.
Well, last weekend was probably the first time where I thought,
against Newcastle.
Boy, this team shows up every week. This is the City team people are used to.
Yeah, that's the 4 Peters that we watched last week go against Newcastle. What happened in Paris, I think not Paris. What happened in Madrid will stay in Madrid. And I think that they take it 3-0, as a matter of fact. I have them at getting a clean sheet, which is crazy. I don't know why I'm doing that. Why am I giving them a clean sheet? Couldn't tell you. But I'm giving them a clean sheet. They kept one last week in the Premier League, so I think they'll do it here. And it's going to be interesting now because outside of the domestic cups, this will now be their main focus. They have no Champions League to worry about. They're going to get more rest than they're used to in the past 4 years, basically. Be going deep in the Champions League with all the other domestic league stuff, domestic cups to do as well. So they're going to have a comparative light schedule. And I think that we've seen Liverpool. I think that we've seen Liverpool really. They haven't been performing as well either in the recent weeks. They've drawn in the midweek. They drew against Everton. They won in between those two, I believe, if memory serves. I could just look at my sheet here. Yeah, they did win in between there, but that was against my Wolves. And my Wolves played pretty well in that match, to be frank. So I think if City can maintain the momentum from the Newcastle result, I think that this one goes their way 3-0. and really starts to put some big pressure on Liverpool up there at the top. Especially if Arsenal wins, then we're looking at 61-56. And that's like I said, that's only 5 points with a game in hand for Arsenal still at that point. So, it's not as done of a deal as you would have thought in recent weeks. But that is the end of our predictions for Matchday 26. Hopefully, well, we've already started off doing better because we both picked a draw for Aston Villa and Liverpool. So that already helps immensely with our picks going forward this weekend. Especially after getting skunked. Wow, that's my worst result in a long time. I did not get a single Champions League pick correct across this whole match day, which really, really stinks. It's really not fun to do.
I think the worst I've ever gone was, I think I went 1-9, one Premier League weekend last year.
Last season, we both had a week where I think we went, actually, I don't know if I ever went 1-9.
No, I think you did pretty well last week.
I went 2-8 before. I'm going to just take a quick glance at our results.
I went 3-8 last weekend. So the fact that I'm already starting with positive units is a big play.
With a perfect pick, yeah, that's huge. That is huge. But yeah, that we will see how this all shakes out going forward. Anything else you want to say before we get on out of here?
You can always, if you're still with us, like, subscribe. Honestly, that's all you have to do. Just subscribe. And the more you subscribe, the bigger our audience gets. And the bigger our audience gets,
that's how that works.
The more words we get to say into microphones about soccer. So I don't know about you, but if you're not subscribed, feel free to hit the old button. I'm not going to tell you to ring the bell. You don't have to do that, but hit the old subscribe.
Does anybody actually ring the bell? And you have a subscription feed. Like, just look at that. You get little dots on that. Who needs the bell?
Well, I found that the ones I personally subscribe to, I don't hit the bell, but I still get notifications. So it's almost like there's actually no reason why I would even hit the bell. So
it seems like overkill at that point. But drop the subscribe there. Subscribe to our Substack so you don't miss out on any of the extra posts that we do on there. And until we're done with this match day, why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, watch some soccer, and we'll see you on the other side. Taiji. Probably Taiji. From Chinese people out there, Mandarin speakers. I wonder where I'll cut this off in the edit.
Oh boy.
My guess is when I say, I wonder where I'll cut this off in the edit.